Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Mostly Peaceful Latinas. I'm your host, Bella.
And I'm Linda.
And before we get started, please smash the follow button. Show us some support. Remember, no Illuminati, no lizard people here. Just Linda and I funding the show, bringing you a
Funding the
show every single
show.
week so that we can talk about the happenings in the clown world. So show us some support, engage in the chat, like our video, and subscribe if you
Share
haven't
it.
already.
Let me really quickly before we get into the show, let me make an announcement on Instagram because I made it a few minutes ago and we were having technical difficulties. So let me see.
Oh dear God.
Hey guys, I am live. We are live on the show. So come by and join the live stream. Oh, sorry guys. You get to see me live trying to engage people. It's not that very interesting. Hold on. Let me just maybe do a pic. There we go. Okay. So, guys, today we are gonna cover.
Clown world has peaked today. Let me tell you,
it's peaked and it's clowny and it's really interesting. One of the first topics that we're gonna cover is how OnlyFans models. We have to be proper and political and nice here. It's not X where we can call women
names that we can't say.
304s. And so these OnlyFans chicks are basically using a legal loophole on Instagram to show their titties to the world and use these fake babies, which are very realistic. They're like $1,000 babies that they make, like legit, even move like a child. They're using that and able to show their breasts to obviously get subscribers. We are also going to discuss the latest controversy on right-wing Twitter, or what I like to call the American Taliban. Give it up for the American Taliban, who want us in burqas and praying all day and just being incubators and never getting an education, because who the fuck needs an education? We're going to discuss the latest controversy on right-wing Twitter and why the men are losing their mind over a group of white chicks dancing in Louisiana during Mardi Gras. I guess no one's ever been to Mardi Gras. I've been to Mardi Gras one. I'll never go back. I actually thought it was very trashy, but I'm not a hater, so I don't really
I've
care.
never been to Mardi Gras. I've been to Louisiana a bunch of times, but
it's not what they make it seem. Honestly,
I guess
it's not all that. It ain't all that.
Just another reason for the right to be mad again today, like they are every single week, slowly becoming the most insufferable of groups.
So there's that, and we are going to discuss how over 68% of Gen Z actually supports Trump, and many of them are defying their parents. Their parents are Gen X, sometimes even elder. No, they wouldn't be elder millennials. They'd be Gen X, some Gen X, right?
Gen X, I guess some elder millennials.
Some elder millennials.
Some elder millennials
they're
could
defying
be if they started young enough.
Very liberal parents and supporting Trump, and a lot of it actually has to do with TikTok. You guys know my favorite subject. I've been telling people for months, especially conservatives, to stop demonizing TikTok, to stop trying to get TikTok banned. I actually was the first person to say, hello. I can't say the R word. I can't say so many words. I was gonna say,
don't do it. Don't do it.
So frustrating. Hello, imbéciles. Sorry. Don't ban TikTok. Like, no, like seriously. And what was your final topic? Oh, Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy, once again, is in the news. And Puff Daddy has been accused for the third or fourth time of
this year alone.
No,
he has a much longer history. We're only talking about what he's gotten himself into this year.
Well, only the legal cases. And it really all started with Cassie, his ex-girlfriend, who had a very damaging lawsuit that was solved, or they came to an agreement within like a day. They just a settlement within a day behind closed doors. So we're going to talk about that as well. And so let's get started with the craziest headline that I saw. I actually thought this was an AI like type of made up news when I saw it on Twitter at first, because they do a lot of that. And I was like, okay, here we go, the Manosphere again, the red pillars again, once again lying about women. We get it, they're hoes, but I don't actually believe that this is what's going on, but it is what's going on. So we're going to show you the article. right
All
now.
right.
And so here it is: Instagram OnlyFans breastfeeding loophole exposed in photos. So basically, one of the terms of services that Instagram has is that if you are a trans person, you're actually like from female to male, right? You're able to show your chest because you're transgender and you have special privileges than the rest of us don't have. Similarly to that, there's a loophole in the terms of services that if you are breastfeeding, you are a mother, you're actually also able to show yourself breastfeeding because it's very natural and that's how you feed your babies. Somehow, some way, one of these wonderful and lovely women of the night of OnlyFans figured out that if she bought one of these very expensive babies, by the way, making or getting some of these babies. So look at the chick. You could see her like
I want to make
huge
sure we don't get
tits
taken
right
off.
there, just completely. So yeah, that's not a real baby. That's not a real baby. That's a fake baby that costs a lot of money. And obviously, we're not going to play you the videos because we'll be banned from this app if we were to play you the videos of these chicks. But this goes into a bigger problem, and I guess in a way, as you guys know, we're very anti the current women hate that's going on the internet by right wing men. I wouldn't say all conservatives. I would say red pill that's spilled into right wing politics. People like at the whatever podcast, somebody mentioned Brian. Do I have beef with Brian? No, I don't. I just don't like the podcast at all. I don't know Brian at all. I don't know if he's a good person or a bad person. I'm just don't really appreciate the podcast. I think that both Fresh
Well,
and Fit and the whatever
I think that more
podcast.
importantly, the podcast in itself doesn't bother me. It's the blending into conservative politics that does. Because I'm an activist before I'm anything else. I've been a political influencer, and that's where Linda and my background come from. And when you start having on individuals that represent MAGA, that represent the Republican Party, going on these podcasts and creating situations where they alienate female voters by creating the idea or perpetuating the idea by platforming these shows that all women are only fans, girls, or women of that caliber. What it does is that it alienates women from wanting to vote Republican or MAGA at a time where the independent and moderate vote is very independent. So I could care less about the podcast. I could care less that the ideology exists. In fact, I'm very well aware that it's been around for quite some time. One of my best friends has been a Rollo Tomasi fan for over 20 years.
Really?
So yeah, so I know that it's been around for quite some time. I could care less that it's around. My bigger problem and the big concern and why we even bother to talk about it is because it's 2024. It's an election season. The truth is that the Manosphere went mainstream after the overturning of Roe v. Wade with Andrew Tate. And it's concerning that Andrew Tate has CIA ties. At least for me personally, I can see part of a bigger potential operation to alienate a female vote, which is the main vote being targeted by Democrats at this time, and also the vote that predominantly shows up to vote. Because, men constantly want to have the conversation about revoking a woman's right to vote, but very little do we hear about the fact that men just don't show up to vote. It's not that women have a super majority. It's just that men don't show up and women do. So when I see any kind of operation that seems to come out of nowhere, when all of a sudden I can't even watch a regular influencer get ready or bake something without there being comments about you're so old and you hit the wall and I bet that you have lots of bodies. Yeah, when you hear it, Linda, what did we call it? It's its own dialect.
You're right. It's like a man dialect. And honestly, like, look, I'll be honest with you guys. I will always tell, like, I'm a millennial. I'm in my 30s, and I will always tell women, younger women, to remain pure, to not sleep around. And these words will never come out of my mouth. Like, I'll never be like, in your 20s, you should, have sex with all these men and like later on, like, just settle for whatever men. Like, no, to me, it's like there's a lot of I wouldn't say side effects, but how do you say, like, there's a lot of repercussions to like sleeping around.
Yeah,
There's a lot
absolutely.
of is that, would you say repercussions?
Repercussions,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of negative effects of sleeping around, right? Or being promiscuous or being too out there when you're young. And a lot of women don't think that way. And I agree with that. The other day, I actually saw, if you guys remember, maybe if you're our age, there used to be this show called The Girls Next Door with Hugh Hefner. Rest in peace, Hugh Hefner. And I don't know why I said that. I don't really care if he's in peace, but whatever.
I want to
Anyways,
stop a second to address that Adam just dropped a super chat in the chat, letting us know for $200. Thank you,
aw,
Adam, for helping us keep our little show alive and being able to bring you guys the news. And he says, "Hey, ladies, here's my tribute. I wanted
oh
to announce last
wow.
year. Reina reached out to me to be a mentor to her, and we have become good friends since. We finally met in person today, and we are having an MPL watch party.
Oh, you
Thank
guys are
you
the
for
best. Thank you
creating
so
a community
much.
for us to
Honestly.
support each other." Yo,
Wow.
don't make me cry on live. Adam, thank you so much. And
Thank you
thank you also
guys.
to Don Chorizo
Oh my god, that's
for
so
his
funny.
contribution. And also to Erica. Adam, that made me so
Adam,
happy.
thank you
To
so
you
much. I
and
appreciate it.
Reina.
Of
Reina, thank you
course.
guys so much. We love you guys and thank you for supporting us and helping us keep the podcast going. Um,
Thank you so much. You
sorry,
guys are the
I
best.
had to address that as soon as it came up, guys. Thank you so much.
So I was saying about women sleeping around. I would never say that. Like, you know, a lot of my friends like
Encourage that in any
encourage that in any
capacity.
capacity, but it is really disappointing. Not disappointing, but it is really disgusting, I guess, when you go on social media. Like today I was going back and forth with this guy that is like, I'm going to the Philippines to like go get my trad virgin wife or whatever. And I was like, I was giving him a hard time because he's a Nick Fuentes fan. If you guys know who Nick Fuentes is, he's a very controversial streamer, talks a lot about the white race and, you know, white nationalist politics, blah, 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 blah. And I was giving him shit because I'm like, well, aren't you a Nick Fuentes follower? Shouldn't you be more concerned about preserving the white race? Shouldn't you be trying to marry a white woman so that you can have white children? Right. Like I'm giving him like a hard time.
Right.
And he's like so mad. Like he's like so mad. And he's like, you're just mad because we don't want like, and you know, he's going into like this whole rant, like really nasty, degenerate terminology, roast beef, PUSSY, and like flappy vagina lips, and you ran through and like you lost your virginity to your uncle at 12. I mean, like all this degenerate, and it really goes to show you that it's a lot of porn brain and projection. Like I was talking to Anthony before coming here, and I said, we don't like, I'm not on my daily basis thinking about sex. Like if you're not a sexual degenerate person who's watching porn, who's consuming all this stuff, porn,
TikTok, yeah.
you're not going to be thinking about that. Like you're not going to be thinking about all this disgusting stuff. Like these are, when this comes out of you, it just, to me, the first thing I think about is this person watches a lot of porn.
Right. This is the person
Like
that's spending
this
excessive
person,
amounts
right,
of time
right.
engaging in this because
And
that's
this,
where your brain
exactly.
automatically goes.
So my problem with podcasts like that is not necessarily that I have a problem with the Men of Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast, is that they purposely obviously bring all these chicks and then they say this is the modern day woman. The modern day woman is an OnlyFans selling her body. The modern day woman is a dumb person that can name 3 countries. The modern day woman has over 50 partners before the age of 25. The modern day woman wants to have a bunch of schmorshmortions. I don't know if I could say that. The modern day women, this and that's what I have a problem with that, because you're painting an entire group of women, our entire gender, as such, right? And it's kind of like the flip side of all men are trash, right? Wasn't that a thing that feminists say?
Yeah,
all men are
absolutely. All
trash,
men are
all men are
pigs.
bad,
All
all
men
men
are
are
bad.
pigs. Like, you know,
It's an it's an ideology that, you know, the Manosphere RP, as it stands today, is a space that consistently talks about the damages of feminism. And I think that if you go back actually to some of our old content, like we've actually discussed like the psyop of feminism, and we agree it was an attack on the nuclear family. We couldn't agree more. But we're also watching a different kind of attack in the nuclear family take place now through the RP where it's attacking men. And for
Right.
me personally, because I do acknowledge that men are the stronger gender, because
Yeah.
I do acknowledge that men build societies, because I do acknowledge that men are in fact leaders, it's more worrisome for me to see men targeted by a psyop that pushes them away from creating families, from building families, that pushes them into this ideology of just uh, hedonism
Nihilism.
to some
Yeah.
extreme, right? Because it's just like sleep around, and it's just for the pleasure of being with as many women as possible, while losing the fabric of what's supposed to hold a good society together, which is that in order for a kid to grow up with good morals, you need a mom and a dad. And if every
Mhm.
guy is out there screwing 50 women, undoubtedly what's going to happen is that you're breaking up the nuclear family. And to me, I don't see any difference than feminism, other than the fact that it's probably even more damaging to steer little boys or men away from the idea of the nuclear family.
Right.
Like that seems like the
And
more.
also just being very black pilled, which is that, everything is bad, society is failing because of women and this and this and that. And it's just like, do you really think that successful rich people are doing this? Like, that's always how you have to think, right? Like, if I talk to, and I do, I have friends who have a lot of money, like they're very successful, nowhere near where I'm at. I'm like here and they're here.
Mhm.
And when I have conversations with these people and I like either drop a commentary on what's going on in the digital world or whatnot, like they're completely immune to all this stuff because they're so focused on either their family or their businesses or their job or travels. Like it's just like they're not focused on all this stuff online. It's like I told a guy today, he's like, well, like you guys, and I said, you're talking about a married women, like you're out here saying that this woman is sleeping around, that she has a body count, and that her, I don't even want to say it, private parts are like roast beef. And I said, you're talking about a married woman. Like one of us is married, and you have absolutely no respect for people like that. And what it does, like for you to say, oh, go do your OnlyFans or like go sleep around, like what this does for younger women reading that. And I saw a comment like that. So younger women said, I have a very low body count. I don't sleep around. I don't club. I don't have any piercings. I don't have tattoos. I screenshotted it. I should have put it up. Um, and she said, but it makes no sense to me to even do any of this when I'm street treated like shit on the internet by all these men
You're still
who
judged
just
no matter what.
are judging me and they don't even know who I am. So
Which
that
we see, and it's, when you see stories like the one that we just covered again, I think we can all agree that this is bad for
right.
society.
Like
This is
these are clearly
degeneracy.
like 304s. Like these are like
This is bad.
bad. Like this is
Only
horrible.
fangirls using fake babies to get away, to get through Instagram's nudity policy is in fact a disgusting thing. As women, we don't want to be represented by that. But we also got to keep in mind that OnlyFans girls only make up, less than 2% of the population, and within that 2%, only a
Mhm.
small majority of them are engaging in this kind of behavior.
Right.
So can we say we reject this kind of behavior without it applying to all women, the same way that we can reject certain behaviors in men without having it apply to all men?
It's like I saw a headline today. I posted it on my story. If you guys saw, of a father in I forgot the state right now, but basically he was feeding benzos on a smoothie to his daughter's friends, obviously with a purpose to take advantage of them. And the way that he got caught was because one of the girls, I guess, either she didn't drink the smoothie or it didn't hit her as much as the other girls. And in between sleep, when the guy was walking into the room, she felt very uncomfortable and texted her parents at 2 a.m. saying, please come pick me up. I'm very scared. And the guy's like, the father's like in her room being creepy. The parents called the other parents of the other girls. They all showed up. They all picked up the girls. They took the girls for testing to the hospital. Turns out the girls were drugged by that father. Now, should we take instances like that and say that all fathers and men are rapists or trying to take advantage of their children's daughters? Like, absolutely not. That's just simply not the case. But they do it for women, and you see a lot more now. Like I saw what's her name, Liz Wheeler, who's a pretty big conservative commentator. She was posting, she posted today about the red pill, And I saw this other girl, Amala. She used to be, she's the mixed girl that used to do PragerU. She was talking about the red pill as well. So there's all these women who are now, talking about what we've been saying for the last year, really, and warning people about. And our whole thing is that this is a psyop before the 2020 election. Now, what happened? 2024 election.
It's been 4 years since the traumatic 2020
election. Guys, don't
elections.
forget really quick to like the stream, please, if you can. If you want to share it as well. We've been in this like weird algorithm since we got attacked by the frogs the other day. And it's been just kind of like weird all around on YouTube. So we'd appreciate it if you could like the video and help us out with that. And obviously, here we are. We're also shadow banned on Twitter. If you guys don't know that, if you try to search us, MPL Podcast 305, you can't find it. So just try to look for it through comments or something. But moving on, with that being said, and I guess it relates to that, is there was a video on X of these girls at Mardi Gras, this white chicks at Mardi Gras, which Bella is going to show you guys. And what I consider to be a very innocent video. Now, I was in a sorority in college, and I want to give you guys my perspective of what it's like to be in Greek life, which these chicks are dancing. People were asking why they're in a parking lot. Well, I'll tell you why they're in a parking lot, because when you're a Mardi Gras, I've been to Mardi Gras, you'll like walk throughout the city. So like you could see the parade and like different like points, right? Some of them being gas stations, some of them being like, you could be at a park, you could be on top of like, I'm sure you guys have seen the people in the buildings. And so obviously young girls, I'd say anywhere from 18 to 22 years old, they're all part of a sorority at LSU, I'm guessing. This is a coordinated dance, they're cute little matching outfits. Like, this is what Mardi Gras is all about. Like, this is it.
And it's what I was telling Linda, not only Mardi Gras, this is what girlhood is about.
Right.
You coordinate dances most of your life together. You coordinate with your friends. You want to dress the same. You want to be cute. You want to go to the party. This is actually pretty normal and standard. And like Linda has mentioned, there's probably nothing more traditional American than Greek life.
Yeah. So I went back to see, and I was part of Phi Sigma Sigma at FIU, and it goes back to 1913. We used to be friends with Sigab, Sigma, whatever, I don't know, whatever, the Sigabs or another big. My ex-boyfriend's a Pike, Pi Kappa Alpha. All of my friends are Pikes. Pike goes back actually to 1818. That's when they were founded. The first and oldest fraternity, I forgot the name right now, but I looked it up and it goes back to the 1700s. There's nothing more part of the Americana brand, I'd say, than fraternities and sororities. And the thing about fraternities and sororities is that you usually join them to network, to build brotherhood, to build sisterhood, to build relationships. There's like, for example, I was telling Bella, I'm like, Tim McGraw, it's like one of the famous Pikes. Like if you type famous Pikes, famous Pi Kappa Alpha brothers, you're going to see all these famous people that you'll recognize. And so, the same thing with like sororities. And there's a lot of strict rules within Greek life, right? Including how you look, how you present yourself, how you carry yourself with women. They want you to be ladies. Like I was telling Bella that there was like certain rules and sororities at FIU where you couldn't even, they tell you like, we never want to see you at a party on top of a man. Like it's not that you're not allowed to, but you represent our sorority. So we don't like sitting on top of a man is unladylike. So don't do that. Like making out with a guy in front of people, getting too drunk. Like we used to get in trouble for drinking. Like these were things that our sorority was really strict about. Like if you were a whore, they did not like that. Like you were a representative of the sorority. So like close your legs. Don't be part of it. If you look sloppy, like it was like a thing, like you always have to be presentable. We'd wear our jerseys on Thursdays, which was it was like, like the letter shirts. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. That's called a jersey. We'd wear our jerseys on Thursdays, and we have chapter, and we'd go out with our friends, and we had mixers with fraternities and so on and so forth. And so if anything, I'd say that, I wouldn't care if my daughter joins a fraternity, honestly, a sorority or not. I wouldn't care if she goes to college at all. But if anything, I would say that fraternities and sororities are one of the last standing institutions inside of, very woke colleges who are still traditional and who will keep the order in terms of how you look, how you present yourself, how you carry yourself, the relationships that you build. I have a funny story. 2 years ago, we met this beautiful Russian girl. She's a patriot. She is a very America First girl. We met her because we went out to dinner with Tommy Vax, right? I mean, one of the most beautiful women. Would you agree that she's one of the most
One
beautiful
of the
women?
most stunning
Right?
women.
One of
Yeah.
the most stunning women that you ever see, this Russian girl. She's super tall, dark hair, blue eyes, just beautiful face. And I'm like, I know you. Like, I know who you are. Like, I've met you before. Well, it turns out that when I turned 21 years old and I went to Vegas for the first time with my friend, we were hanging out at Nikki Beach in Las Vegas. And it was me and my friends. Again, I come from the Greek life, and all of my friends, all of my guy friends that were there were Pikes, Pi Kappa Alpha. One of my friends has a tattoo of the Pike logo in the back. And we are drinking, we're having fun. And all of a sudden, this man with the Russian, right, approached my friend and he say, "Hey, I'm a Pike, you're a Pike." And he's like, "Yes." Anyways, it ended up being the owner of Dinky Beach and ended up buying us drinks the entire time. And we were just having fun for free. And I met her just coincidentally. Like I don't know if you said read me, but I reconnected with her now through like politics over 10 years later. So it's like, it's things like that that make Greek life, like, I don't know, I guess you'd say cool. I wouldn't say it's nerds. They're not nerds. Somebody said they're nerds. It's no. I
Somebody
wouldn't
said they
say.
were nerds or cringe or
Well,
whatever. I think that what's cringe is just not letting young women be women, like not letting young girls just like dance and be themselves. And then it's like, I love how they try and gaslight. It's like, oh, well, it's not because they're dancing, it's because of the music that they're dancing to. It's black music,
right. Yeah. There
right?
was a lot of
It's black,
racist.
they're
There
white
was a
women and
lot
it's
of
black
racist
music. And
people.
it's like, first of all, it's Louisiana. Like
Yeah.
every
They're like
white boy,
Bayou.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Like, if you're from Louisiana, you're going to have black culture embedded into your culture. Like, I promise you that the Florida rednecks are no better than that. I posted a video when I was in hanging out with white people in Jenny Springs. I had to run away from Miami just so I could have some sense of normalcy.
mm-hmm.
Because white people just don't care. They were not gonna shut down. They spent 4th of July celebrating, throwing fireworks with each other. There was no mask mandates, there was no closures, there was nothing happening in Gainesville and Jenny Springs. Well, not Gainesville. Gainesville was cringe. Because they're very Democrat, but Jenny Springs is not. And that's why we went there. We're like, all right, we're gonna go hang out with the rednecks and the white people, because what else are we supposed to do? We're not gonna stay with a super hypochondriac Latinos in Miami that were just masked up and fucking weirdos.
I guess that, like, to me, it's like, what's triggering men to act this way? Like, what could possibly
Well, actually, somebody brought up
be
the Whatever podcast, and
so disturbing?
Chase from the Whatever podcast had something to say. He said, "Well, it's not so much of the dance; it's that I know these girls are gonna, they're gonna spend their 20s, going to Cabo to lay the pipe or to get piped
Oh,
instead of raising children." And it's like,
I
why is it that the mind of these men always goes to like sex? Like, it's so weird to me. And I guess it's like a man thing versus a woman thing. But like, if you're constantly thinking of other men's penis, and like, it's just so weird to me. It's like so homo. It's so disturbing
I
to
was
me.
talking to Linda about it. Like, we grew up in Miami.
Yeah.
I've lived in Miami my entire life. Like in Miami, you start going to like all ages clubs when you're like 14, 15 years old, where they serve like juice and you can like dance. And you're home, like the club closes by midnight, but like it's what you do. Like it's the normal culture out here. The majority of the people that I know are married,
Right.
and the majority of the married people that I know met partying. They met taking shots together, being fun together. They were out on the boat, they were out at the clubs, and they've got stories, and they'll remember, and they'll pull up like their old like club pictures, like, oh, they remember when we were like in Oxygen, or when we were like at
Yeah.
Mansion or whatever. It's like it's the standard. So this idea that because young people party, like, what do you think, that girls are partying by themselves with these dudes, and they're like, those dudes aren't falling in love with them, and that they're not getting married,
Well, that's
that
the
they're not
argument.
that they're
Right.
not meeting in
Right.
Cabo, and that they're not falling in love, and that they're dating after that and getting married and having babies. It's like this idea that women are just trying to, it's so unrealistic. It's
Well,
so unrealistic.
one of the comments
First of all,
would,
can I just say something that's
yeah,
like very obvious that they don't like to talk about? They think that because they could go and they could they see one or three, you know, sex workers on the internet talking about how they sleep with different men every all the time. The way that our body parts are built, there's only so much that we can do. Like you guys are probably a lot more capable. Like
no, yeah,
you will literally go raw. Like your body can literally only take. So this like idea that women are constantly thinking about it, biologically, it's just it doesn't work that way. The body doesn't work that way.
right.
I had to say that.
Well, one of the things that they were discussing was that men don't want this. They want a quiet woman, a meek woman, a woman that has humanity. And they go into this whole thing, and it's like, there are 7 billion people on this planet. There's 320 million people in the US. You're not going to be the voice for every single man, and we're not going to be the voice for every single woman. There's men out there like Adam 22 who found their partner with Lena, a porn star. Whether that works out or not, we'll see. We don't know that. In 5 years, they could literally be Christ filled and turn to Christ and completely change their ways. There's men that, you know, they absolutely love women with tattoos, whereas you may say that tattoos are disturbing and disgusting and whatever it may be. There's men out there who are in polygamous relationships with 2 or 3 different women, and the women are okay with that. There's like in Colombia, we have a saying, pa los gustos los colores. Like there's different, like there's different types of colors in the rainbow for you to pick from. So this idea that who are these girls going to marry? They're just going to have sex with Chad and Tyrone. That's what they were saying, and blah, 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 blah. Look around them. The people that they're going to marry are going to be those frat boys that are around them. How do I know that? Because that's what my friends did. My boyfriend and I didn't work out. My fraternity boyfriend and I we just didn't. We stayed together after college and we didn't work out. But 90% of the people that I know from college that were in a fraternity and sorority ended up together, and now they're parents. That's what happened. Like a lot of the women lost their virginity. Is that your phone?
Oh, is that me?
Oh shit.
Yeah. Mute it.
You know, a lot of the women that I know actually lost. I mean, I don't have to tell their business, but like they lost their virginity to those men. So this idea that just because you're dancing on Mardi Gras, you're just gonna be popping your vagina all over the world, it's just simply not true. The same way that they say, you know, if a woman's well traveled, then that means that she's sleeping around or she's going to, you know, travel for different men.
They've really just like
that's just simply not true either.
They villainized everything that women can do. Like,
yeah,
I travel with my friends all the time. In fact, I even used to travel for work, which they seem to have a really bad. And you know what I did? I would stay in my hotel room all the time. Yep. Like I didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I went straight from work to my hotel room and order room service and watch Netflix. And that was my life. And you know, this idea that women go out there, like no they don't. The average woman doesn't do that. You're not going to be in a foreign country meeting up and hooking up with random strangers, going to random places that you do not know, putting yourself in situations like Taken, where now like your father has to like go to another country and like try to go rescue you or something like that. Like the average person, really, the average woman, I promise you, is that level of paranoid about potentially getting attacked, being sex trafficked, you know, a series of things where I promise you the norm isn't like, oh, I'm so glad that I'm here in Germany. I can't wait to smash a new dude every night. Like it's just, it's not realistic. You know, the tattoo thing, every time they say that, I find it so ironic because I didn't have any tattoos until after I got married.
But does your husband have tattoos?
My husband's covered in tattoos, and it was my husband who wanted me to get my tattoo.
Right. But that's why I'm saying, like, pa los gustos los colores. There's some men that don't like that at all. And there's couples that literally get tatted up together. Like, so it's a matter, like, you can't speak for all men and be like, oh, well, then no one's ever going to want them. And, you know, this actually goes into our conversation about how Gen Z approves of Trump more than any other demographic. Is that what the article says?
More than any other demographic.
And I'm gonna break down why that is, right? And I know some of you follow me on Instagram and some of you follow me on Twitter. And I think I've discussed this more on Instagram than Twitter. just because I was trying to convince other conservative commentators and influencers and legislators to stop trying to ban TikTok because of this, right? Gen Z loves Donald Trump more than any other age group. And why is that? I'm going to tell you guys why. When these children, well, now they're probably teenager and young adults, when these young adults were 8 years ago, they were children. They were 12 years old, they were 13 years old, they were 16 years old, they couldn't even vote. And we didn't really have TikTok until 2020, right? And so they didn't really know anybody about Donald Trump. I'm in my 30s. So I known Trump since I was young. I've known Trump as being the guy that says you're fired. Everybody knows his brand.
Right.
Everybody knows that he has like 400 hip hop songs. But this generation had no idea who Trump was until what happened, until clips of Trump started going viral on TikTok. And they're saying, wait a minute, this guy's not that bad. He's actually really freaking funny. Like, he's so funny. Like, there was a whole trend a few months ago of Donald Trump is our favorite comedian.
Mhm.
And you had all these Gen Z kids doing voiceovers. And I remember telling you, I said, dude, there's so many of these kids that are going to end up just liking Trump because it's like he's a funny man and they had never seen him in this light. And the only thing that they heard from their parents, their elder millennial parents or their Gen X parents was, Donald Trump is a bad guy. Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. But now they're seeing for themselves without that filter or that third party mediator that's pushing all this fake narrative. Now they're seeing for themselves raw content of Trump. And
just
so
being hilarious.
just being hilarious. Right.
I wanna take a moment to just give, because we've gotten a couple of contributions come
nice.
true. David coming through, keeping the show alive. David and Adam, we just thank you guys so much. You do so much for us. David writes, corn is pure evil. It's a weapon. It's a weapon used today.
Yep.
Anyone struggling with it, read the articles on 2002 and 2003 when Israel hijacked the airways so that the only TV Palestinians could watch was extreme corn. They said it was to weaken the men, making them easier to conquer. Wow.
And I genuinely believe that.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Something that I am absolutely going to be looking into.
Well, that's why that's why the Muslims don't allow porn, and they know that, right? So I've heard speeches of Arabs before. I don't know whether Saudi or whatever, but I've actually heard this from them alone, and on TikTok, I've seen the same commentary that David said about porn and why they have it banned and how it's a weapon and what happened with the whole thing with Israel, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, people labeling that as anti-Semitism. Now, we're not going to get into this discussion, but the original, the founders of, or the person that came up with the porn industry was actually Jewish.
Corn.
The corn industry is actually a Jewish person. And it's something that, they don't really like to talk about because it dives into you're blaming Jewish people for everything that's wrong with society, but it's a historical fact. Like, you can literally look it up and back this up. It's not something that we're making up at all,
or just
putting out.
David sent in a second contribution. He says, I don't understand ideologies encouraging heterosexuals to have disdain for the opposite gender. Where is that supposed to take us? What's the goal? Also, ladies, if you do a Vax show on Rumble, I will fly in on my dime to zoom in for that any day. I love that. Thanks, David. Yeah. We're definitely planning on that, and we'll definitely be having something soon. Yeah, you're right. It's an ideology that encourages men and women to dislike one another and creates this great division, which is actually back to where I believe this is all it, because you guys know that I'm the one with the conspiracy brain, little Q tard that the media likes to call me and slander me with. Here's the thing. You look at an article like the Gen Z loving Trump, you see this happening. You see that it is 68% of Gen Z loves Donald Trump. You know that this is happening. And you also see how with 68% of Gen Zers liking Donald Trump, then obviously that means that both men and women are identifying as conservative. So when has the Republican Party ever captured the young vote? This isn't normal. This isn't standard. This is a phenomenon that due to Donald Trump. So it's interesting to
Mhm.
see this
And may I add that they said that only DeSantis would be able to get that vote because he's younger? Don't
mm,
forget that.
don't forget when they told us.
That was a narrative that was going on.
Don't forget when they told us. It seems to me that it couldn't be more clear that it is a psyop, because of course you want to create this division. I've been talking about politics now online for quite a few years, and I had never seen this before. We had never seen this before. The party never made it a point to alienate women. In fact, quite the contrary. This was a party that celebrated their women. This was the party that used to say conservative women are hotter than conservative women. Harder than
Conservative
liberal women. Conservative women are born with no, balls or whatever. Like, that's something that used to happen in our party. They used to celebrate women, and this was just the case up until 2 years ago. I would say up until the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and then something crazy started happening, which is that they started putting Tate in the water once again, which brings me to our next contribution that I want to have a shout out. Don Chorizo writes, Tate is really CIA, can't trust no one. He kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah, he did come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he's openly talked about how his father was CIA.
Right.
He's openly talked about it. So yeah, this smells wrong. This smells manipulated. This smells orchestrated. This smells like an end goal. And then when you watch Democrats, that they're getting ready to make the entire 2024 elections about women's rights, about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, about empowering women in general. And you watch the stark difference of women that are maybe women that are looking at the Democrat Party, and it's like, yeah, you're saying all that, but you're also telling me that men in skirts are girls. So maybe those girls are like, you know what? Let me look over to what the Republicans are doing. And then when they look over to us, we're the freak right. We're talking about, we want to take your right to vote away. We don't want to see you dancing. Why are you baking cakes in a tight t-shirt? It's psychotic. It's unnatural.
Mhm.
It's being developed to make people be turned off about our party. Top Dog, right? I'm 19, so I'm a Zoomer. But before he was president, I only knew Trump from his stuff with WWE.
Oh, that too.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's right. You see, because he was a
Mhm.
pop culture icon.
Icon. Yeah.
Trump was an icon. He was in movies. You just knew who he was. You knew who he was. And might I add, it was him and Ivanka that were iconic, because Ivanka was an
Yeah.
icon on her own,
Yeah.
because their divorce was so public and such a big deal. And her son
Ivana.
was such a big right,
Ivana.
Ivana. It was such a big deal. So to me, yeah, I feel like all of it is connected. I feel like the idea that men could be so triggered by young girls dancing at Mardi Gras fully dressed.
And then
That
the questions that came, there was this one guy that had like literally like an essay, like he wrote a whole essay about it. And he goes on to say, like, how many men will they sleep with, and like what were they doing, would they consume drugs, and like it was this entire just questionnaire of these girls' lives, which is why I called him the Pussy Patrol. And they get mad at me saying like, oh, you're just loose, you just don't care. And I'm like, no, honestly, what it is to me is like, who fucking cares? Like, the best thing that you can do, right, is raise your children to fear God, and to, for women, and even for men too. Like, you don't want to teach men to just be sexually loose and sexually degenerate for many reasons: leaving a girl pregnant, getting an STD, sharing his energy with the wrong people. So, with us, like, I'll be honest with you guys, my friends and I partied so hard in college. Like, we, like, fraternity and sorority people party. You have mixers, you have field trips or whatever. Like, you do so much. You obviously have spring break. But the reality was that the women that were raised right, wearing, spreading their legs, having sex with all these frat men, it was women like us who were looking down at the sisters that were whores. In fact, nobody liked the whores. Nobody. The women were slut shaming those women more than the men were. Why? Because it made our
yeah,
sorority look bad. So nobody wanted to have the chick that was going around giving blowjobs to all the fraternity bros. She would actually get
careful.
kicked out of the sorority, and that was a fact. Like, that's just a fact. So to me, it's like, if you actually knew Greek life and how women hold each other accountable based on reputation of that sorority. The same thing with a fraternity. You had the hotter guys were SIGEPs in my, at least at FIU and Pike, and you want to party with these, and these were the nerds, and these were that. That's how it was. These were the nice guys. Those are the guys that you want to marry, like, you know. And so I just think to myself, like, what are women allowed to do? Like, what?
Yeah.
Obviously, no one's just gonna go from 16 and just be handed off to a man and get pregnant at 16 and just pop kids forever. Like, that's just not realistic for all of us. Not every woman wants to do that. You know, that's just, it is what it is. So what are women allowed to do?
Women are not allowed to do anything. We're not allowed to have fun. We're not allowed to have traveled. We're not allowed to have Instagram. We're not allowed to. We can't even ask for faithful husbands because that's a problematic too.
That's true.
We can't even
That's
ask
true.
for faithful husbands. Linda, can you do me a favor? I
Yeah.
want to send you a quick link so that you can pull it up because you know that I'm not, I'm banned
What link?
everywhere on Twitter. There's a gentleman in the chat that says that Tate is not CIA.
Well, who cares about this? So, do you want to really pull it up?
Yeah,
What
I
do you wanna
want you
pull?
to. Well, if you could pull up the tweet and share your screen. Are you logged onto the StreamYard?
Yeah, I am. And share the tweet.
Share that tweet that I just sent to you, please. I just like, because if you're gonna call, if you're gonna try us and you're gonna say
How do
that
I
we're
share the screen?
misinforming, come down here, go to share screen, and then it's gonna pick the Twitter one. There you are. There you are. What does that say? What does that say?
My dad was a chess genius CIA operative. My mother, a dinner lady. They had absolutely zero in common. Dad, she fed you boys healthy meals every day, cleaned the house, and was largely quiet. I loved her very much. That's literally all men want.
That's it. Like that's
Yeah,
all.
I
mean,
would
I
would
never. What
agree,
we
I
said was that there's
guess.
CIA connections. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I'm not. Nobody in my family. You can go back as far as you want. Nobody in my family is CIA. And when somebody seems to come out of nowhere, yes, he had been a fighter for quite some time, but Tate does seemingly come out of nowhere as far as his popularity goes. And yeah, it does seem inorganic. And yeah, it is a bit of a coincidence that his dad was also a CIA operative, Air Force, which is where most psyops develop from. So, I mean,
by the way, Tate blocked us. He blocked me on X. I don't know why. I've actually wasn't offensive. I didn't say anything rude because I know he blocks everybody, and I didn't want to get blocked because I wanted to just watch his tweets because some of them I find hilarious. Some of them are obviously very cringe. But he blocked us, and I think it's because when I was commenting on what is this guy that he had an interview with? The British guy?
oh, the one that always has Pearl on.
Bill O'Reilly. No, that's not British.
No.
What's the British guy? Guys, can you? Huh? No.
No, it's not Chris. It's
Piers
Morgan.
Morgan.
Pierce Morgan.
I was commenting on an interview, but I was actually talking about Piers Morgan being a liar, and I think Andrew Tate saw it because I guess he's paranoid and he like Googles his name to see like who talks about him, and then he fucking blocked me. And yeah, whatever. So there's that. It is what it is.
All right, guys. Last story of the day before we move on. Diddy is in trouble again. There is a current lawsuit against Diddy. Apparently Cuba Gooding Jr. is mentioned in it.
I didn't see that.
It's what's this guy's name? Nicki's ex.
I don't know, but Meek Mill also. But the lawsuit basically alleges that this young man was sexually harassed by Diddy, and allegedly Diddy was like touching his anus at some point. And here's the thing. So if you live in Miami and you partake in the party scene, depends on like the level of like connections that you have. Diddy has a house here and he's always throwing parties. I have never been to the parties. Thank God. Because like you just never know, like never. But I do know people that go, And for years, I mean, for years, everybody has talked about Diddy being a closeted gay man because he would get too effed up, too messed up on all these drugs. He loved Molly's. He used to be best friends with Eric Murillo, who overdosed on, I forgot what, I think it was like heroin a few years ago, and they found him dead. And so Diddy used to go to space with him and like get super messed up and all these drugs. And then, you know, according to his bodyguards and other people that have been part of his parties, it's like he'll get so messed up. All of a sudden, a gay man is like sucking him off. And, you know, that's that. And so the first, this is something that like people in the industry have talked about. There's also rumors about Diddy had something to do with the murder of obviously Biggie, with the murder of Kim,
Of his ex-wife, Kim Porter.
Kim Porter. That she was like writing a book, and all of a sudden she like passed
That
away. A
he's been
healthy
behind.
woman,
Yeah,
you know, who was in her like what, like 40s
in her
only.
40s.
Like, I don't think she was 50 years old. All of a sudden she passed away from like septic shock or something. And so there's a lot of rumors about Diddy, including the fact that he is in the closet. And, you know, I know that the Me Too movement kind of brought a lot of fake allegations from women, because I do believe that women weaponize the fact that they're women sometimes, and, you know, will sleep with a man or something happens when they were too drunk and then they make up these allegations about men. I believe that for sure. But I also believe that there's all these men.
Damn,
And
someone said that there's rumors that he blew up Kid Cudi's car too. I've actually
yes,
heard
no,
that
no,
too.
no, yes, that too. And don't forget that Kid Cudi was very like he was like really mentally ill at some point. And Cudi actually went in hiding for a while because he was
Yeah.
like depressed.
Yeah.
And then he had this whole fallout with Kanye. And then Kanye actually in 2022 alluded to the fact that Diddy was a Fed. And when you think about it, Diddy has done so much, yet he's never, ever gotten in trouble. And again, the rumor is that he has everybody in his pockets, like investigators, prosecutors, the police, like everyone. And obviously being
They
Diddy, you
say
have
that
the best.
the Tory Lane story, that supposedly that he was it, no, wait, I'm confusing him with, sorry, the other rapper mogul, Jay-Z, that's also up to no good.
Yes.
But Diddy's up to
Diddy's up to no good.
Diddy's up to no good. But you know what? When I was younger, really, when I started getting into like conspiracies and stuff like that, because I'm like a second generational conspiracy theorist. My dad's into conspiracies. But one of the first things that I would get to is I used to follow this blogger. Don't ask me what her name is right now. I can't remember it. But I followed her for many years. And I used to pay, I used to pay to a blog that she had, and she was a former publicist in the hip hop industry, and she would just share stories all the time. And one of the things that she would talk about was how prevalent like this, like, you know, Illuminati, like the secret society, the entering these secret societies through, you know, the engaging in intercourse with people, how the same sex thing is something that's very, very big in hip hop, how just about everybody is turned out. I don't know how true any of that is, but I know that she definitely had the credentials to back up what it was that she was saying. And the reason why she had to hide behind this paywall on this blog is because all of her information would consistently, she would get targeted by these big moguls. And she used to consistently talk about all of the people that had been involved with P. Diddy. Usher is another one that's also rumored to have been involved with P. Diddy. Justin Bieber, Jamie Foxx. There's quite a few people.
And don't forget that
no, not Jamie Foxx. I'm sorry, not Jamie Foxx. Kevin Hart. Well,
the internet was going crazy. I wish I would have gotten some of the content on Twitter, saying that Meek Mill, there's like very suspicious pictures. Like there's a picture of him and Diddy like in matching outfits and stuff like that. It's like really funny. And Meek Mill was actually going back and forth with Andrew Tate. Did you see that? They had a
I didn't.
You're not allowed to be on Twitter. That's right. There was a post that Andrew Tate did that he said something like, well, Diddy was or Meek Mill was sucking off Diddy. I don't know, something like that. And then he replied to Andrew Tate saying, what are you talking about? You're a human trafficker. And like that was like set off a, obviously, back and forth.
Oh,
But
damn, Battle of the Degenerates.
if you guys type Mick Mill, I'm actually going to show you some of the stuff now that I know how to do this on StreamYard. If you actually oh no, you can't. I have to log in. Never mind. If you actually just search Mick Mill on Twitter, you're going to see all the memes and all the stuff that's happening. It's so funny. We threatened to kill Undead Chronic. Why don't you just show it? Like, you're still here.
I can't believe that these people
They're
are still
still here.
straggling through. Oh my
These
god.
women threatened
Guys,
to kill
the
Undead
insults
Chronic.
really get mad. You know, it's so crazy how these really
Yay.
strong men get so butthurt about the smallest things.
Yay.
But guys,
Yes.
drop some questions in the chat. We're so grateful that you guys were here with us on TikTok, on YouTube. Thank you guys. We've been working on getting our viewership up and working on creating more content for you guys behind the scenes. So we're really excited about that. So ask us anything in the chat.
We'll stay here for a little bit.
We'll stay here for a few more minutes. And you can also ask us on TikTok. We'll also try and get to those questions.
I just don't understand how there's grown men on the internet just gossiping about women all day fucking long. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why you think fat shaming women is going to do anything. Thankfully for you, you don't have to sleep next to any of our fat asses. I don't get it. Don't you guys have like money to do, or some Filipinas to like impregnate or something? Like, no, you can't like go make a little Filipino baby.
Someone said that Diddy feels like a distraction from major news. I don't know, bro. I don't know, because I feel like that is major news. I feel like getting exposed. I feel like he's having his R. Kelly moment.
No,
the rumors about P. Diddy have been going around since I was a kid. Like, this is like ongoing.
Yeah, I was in
like
college.
I remember Biggie and Tupac Steph, and people are like, it was definitely Diddy. So it's like we've known about it for some while, and it seems like it's just finally coming to a head where it's like, oh well, it's blowing up. I wouldn't say that it's a distraction. No, if it was a distraction, why not keep it going? I think the fact that when Cassie,
this has been going on for
when
years.
Cassie filed her lawsuit
for years,
like that was a really big deal, and the fact that he made that go away like almost immediately within like a couple of hours, if you will, like that right there lets me know that he was definitely trying to hide something.
Star, I don't know who this is. She said, when are you guys gonna confront Thor? I don't know who that is. Glenn Lawrence, I don't know who that is. And more who push that same reduced women rights.
Who's
just
Thor?
drop in the chat who these people are. Are they YouTubers or Instagrammers? Or I genuinely, I don't know who these people are.
I genuinely have no idea who these people are, but sure, like we don't have any problem calling them out.
The problem, they're part of the Red Pill. I guess I'm gonna have to look them up and figure out who they are. The problem with a lot of these red pillars is that they're commentators. And the reality is that there's a difference between people, and I'd say like Bella, like not really me, because I haven't been that politically involved lately at all when it comes to like local stuff. But she is like, that is her full-time job. Like, she is an executive, executive director for the CDF. And so when you actually subtract yourself, right? Take away all the bullshit that you see on the daily, from the discourse on the gender discourse, the repeal of the 19th Amendment, the women are terrible, out of society is fighting because of women. When you actually start being a serious person that wants to understand politics, meaning polling, meaning legislator, you come to understand that in essence, the reason why we are where we are is really because nobody gives a shit about local politics and state politics. The turnout, you can pick any county in the US. So we'll choose Miami-Dade County. You have special elections every once in a while. You have local elections for your commissioners, your mayor, things like that people don't really think about, right? Do you know what we find? That only 13% of all registered people that can vote make it to the voting place on a off election. Now, how could you blame women or let's say, or men, who cares? How could you blame any of the genders to say it's women who are the downfall of society when you don't even show up to vote in your county. And this is not a Miami thing. I mean, pick any
No,
county,
pick
pick
any
Sacramento.
county.
Like, you can just pick any county in Alaska and then look at the voting and the data. And you're going to see that no one is showing up to vote. That is one problem. Do you know how many positions are open in counties that are not filled? Like random, like not
Well,
commissioners
the
are
the
always
numbers
filled.
is there is over 50% of all elections ran in the United States. Now
Mhm,
remember, we're talking about city councils, water department, all of the different elections that you can have. Over 50%
mhm,
of those elections are
mhm,
won unopposed, meaning that nobody challenges whoever ran, and as a result, they win. In fact, there's a story
mhm.
out of Georgia in 2020 where a Satanist transgender
Oh my God, this one
ran
was
as a
fantastic.
Republican mayor in a town in Georgia and won. And the reason why they won is because it was a joke. They ran unopposed. Nobody else ran to oppose him in the Republican Party. And what did Republicans do? They went into the voting booth and they saw an R next to that person's name and they voted for that R. And the result was that this town in Georgia had a transgender Satanist Republican, wasn't really a Republican mayor, that ran to play off on the fact that more than 50% of all of this country's elections are ran completely unopposed.
Mm.
So why aren't men are supposed to lead society? Why don't I see men running for public office? There's we did a lawsuit. We're not going to talk. I'm not going to talk too much about the details on it because it's still ongoing against I'm not going to talk about the details of it, but just know that you couldn't even find a man who was willing to put their name on the lawsuit because they were scared that people would come after them. In fact, I hear it all the time. There's people that tell me, well, when I tell them, how come I only see women involved in activism? They'll tell me something like, well, men have real jobs and they're worried about getting doxxed. Sir, I lost my job as a result of being doxxed. I had a real job, but somehow speaking up for children was more important for me than that. And I understood that God would provide if something was taken away from me. So I'm sorry, but that's not a good enough excuse. The men are just not out there. And it's crazy because these are the same men that are saying that society is being lost to degeneracy. Well, guess where the degeneracy starts taking place? Within the schools.
Mhm.
And when, Linda was involved in school board efforts, and she'll tell you, you walk into these school board efforts and do you know who's opposing the books that are talking about butt plugs and fisting? Do you know who's opposing that? Because it ain't men appalled that their young
Mhm.
boys are listening to that. It's women that
Yep.
could that admittingly so know
Yep.
that they are not the stronger gender, and
Mhm.
as a result wish that more men were involved, but they're not. In
Mhm.
fact, the most and I feel like it's finally, I could finally mention this. To me, it's actually insane that how disconnect these men are willing to do anything to push their laws forward. One of the things, the conversations that comes up often is family courts.
And by the way, that a lot of the times when they say they want women to stop voting, it's for like the dumbest things, right? Like they'll just be like, um, use like the guy that when I said, I wouldn't like my man to watch the whatever podcast, and it had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with Brian or Chase or the men or anything at all that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They could be the nicest people in the world, and everything to do with the porn stars and the sex workers that are there, right? Like I saw a girl whose titties were literally hanging out. Like, why would I want my man to be sitting right across from that girl who's like tits are literally hanging out? And so the guy took it personal and he said, this is exactly why women shouldn't be allowed on the internet. Like, dude, it's not that serious. Like, now you just want women to be banned, no rights, you can't vote, you can't say, because you don't like a comment that I say on social media. I honestly know he's being facetious and trying to get a reaction on Twitter because that's what you do. But it's just like that is that and you see it in our comments all the time on here on YouTube. We'll post a clip, we'll talk about it, and it's like, this is exactly what we need to repeal the 19th Amendment. It's like, okay, well, you don't believe in democracy, you don't believe in freedom of speech, you don't believe in anything. I mean, you're very anti-American, right? Because the Bill of Rights and the civil rights protect everybody equally, gender and race. So I
Mm-hmm.
think to answer, where is she? Hold on. Somebody asked, ladies, would you be willing to do a collab on this topic with another lady in the space on men's retraction from their importance in society? What does that mean? Men's
Yeah.
retraction for their importance in society. I'm a moderator. Yeah, that'll be fine. Just
That'll be fun. You can email
you can
us.
email us. Our emails here, mostly peacefullatinas@gmail.com. You can DM me on Twitter.
I
And
know that, and here's another thing that the RP, and I want to make this point because this is really important. A couple of months ago, Pretty Things got into a fight with Ian Smith. Interesting enough, I'm sure that she didn't really understand who Ian Smith was. In 2020, this country was shut down. Many people opposed those shutdowns. Many people didn't necessarily buy the narrative, and people lost their jobs, their businesses closed down, and there was only a handful of men that stood up and fought back. And Ian was one of those people. So to see that there was one man of a handful of men, right? Because there was a handful of men all over the country, but we're not talking about a substantial amount, enough where you can call them out by name today. And to see a movement that talks about masculinity and embracing men and all these other things, not pay attention to something like that, not look at that and be like, that's a masculine man, somebody who stood up to tyranny, who stood up against the government.
right,
And
Ian Smith had to sleep inside of his gym.
correct.
Because the not the police, the state, the city, whatever, were going to literally seize his assets. And him and his wife had to move into the gym and able to protect that from the government coming after them. And he also accumulated thousands of dollars worth of fines and able to stay open. And so that is rebellion. That is what the
Correct.
founding fathers intended. That is what masculinity is. And then here comes a woman who thinks she's like the arbitrary of who's a feminine woman. You know, one time she was like judging women's voices for how feminine it is,
what men should be into
what men
and what
should
they
be
shouldn't be
into, what
into.
men should say or not, right? Because that's how big her head has gotten. Is here to tell Ian Smith that he's not a masculine man simply because they disagreed on God knows what
On
topic,
marriage,
on
on the
marriage, on
topic of
single
marriage and
women, I
treating their
think,
right or
right,
something like that. And it's
right.
like, who are you to step back on a man like this? You want me to tell you how I know the RP is full of shit? You want me I hope there's RP people in the chat right now. You want me to tell you how I know that the RP is full of shit? Because Ron DeSantis was a candidate for president, and not a single one of them pointed out that Ron DeSantis did a law change here in Florida just a couple of months ago to get rid of alimony. That's how I know that the RP bros are not fucking serious, not even one slight bit. Because if they were serious about the stuff that they talk about, why didn't they get behind DeSantis? This was just a couple of months ago. DeSantis literally did away with alimony in the state of Florida. They could have supported DeSantis. I remember telling Linda, I'm like, I'm not going to mention it because if they haven't realized it, I'm not about to like hype up DeSantis as a candidate to the RP space. Right. But Ron DeSantis did away with alimony, and not a single person in the RP space talked about it. When they can't shut up about family court. You know what the most frustrating part about hearing men cry about family court? That the majority of you people online, of you men online crying about family court, haven't had to deal with it. Linda and I have had to deal with family court. I've had to deal with family court twice.
I've had to deal with
I've had the family courts weaponized against me twice. Had to give up our guns because of the family courts. So don't come and tell me that there's a problem with family courts. I'm aware that there's a problem with family courts. You know what's another problem for family courts? That you can be getting stalked. You can have somebody showing up at your house. You can have somebody doxing your information, and there's nothing that's going to be done because you have to take that through family court until somebody physically hurts you. So don't tell me that there's something wrong with family courts. I know that. I'm well aware. I'm a woman. There's things that are handled through family courts as well, and we've had to deal with it. The RP, the point is that the RP ain't serious, because if it was serious, then they would advocate for actually changing the laws, and that's not something that they care to do.
Fred, I know earlier I can't find the comment. You said that you were grateful that I exposed Donovan Sharp, and that you think he has some good takes or fair criticisms. I don't know what content that is, because the reality is that a lot of content that I've seen from Donovan Sharp, including what I saw when I was in Valuetainment in Saucecast, was him being an extremist, probably worse than a Taliban husband, where he tells his wife that she can't even go in the bathroom with a phone because you don't know who she's texting, and it's potentially that she could be texting other men. So I don't really see how he has good takes. He's a hurt man that was, I guess, a finesse or scam by a 19-year-old stripper back in the day, who said
Hmm.
that he would never date an older woman. His wife now is significantly older, as you've seen her. She's also dresses very immodest. Her cleavage was down to here for her wedding day. I don't know why anybody would do that as a woman.
And Pearl stood next to her and took a
And
picture with
Pearl
her.
stood next to her to take a picture. So it's a walking contradiction. I would not say that he
Yeah.
has fair balances. Why did he come after me on the podcast? I mean, he really had no reason to insult me. What it was is that he hates the fact that there are certain men out there who are wealthier and have resources, and they don't mind spending it on women. And then somehow, some way, they make it seem like it's us women trying to change the market so that men have to spend more on you for a first date or second date. That's not the case. So I don't really see how he has any moderate or good takes. I think he's a fraud,
I
you
think he
know?
is a fraud, which somebody asked here, would you guys debate Andrew Wilson or Red Pillar? Yes and no. I wouldn't debate Andrew Wilson because I've already seen that he debates in bad faith and that like he'll mute people or he'll
Really?
cut parts off. Yeah, he did it to Tree of Knowledge, to Tree of Logic. So that I don't know necessarily about that debate. Yeah, we would debate Red Pillars. What we've always said is that like we wouldn't go on Fresh and Fit. And we wouldn't go on Fresh and Fit because they are once again very disrespectful when they feel like somebody is making a point that could challenge them. They become very emotional, and as a result they want to kick women out, or they want to talk down, or they're going to tell you like, oh, shut the hell up, this is my show, you're on my platform, I'm giving you clout. And honestly, the reality is we are a small podcast, and us going on their show, it would be them doing us a favor, and I don't want to owe that kind of favor to somebody like the Fresh and Fit guys.
Yeah, I mean, why would I give him a chance to talk on the show?
Right.
Like, why? Like the first thing that he said was that I was triggered, and then he made up this whole lie that I was triggered because I went out with a man who spent a lot of money on a date and I didn't get a ring. Like he literally made all this up in his head. So when you make all this up in your head, and I know what it is, I'm an attractive woman and he doesn't like attractive women that can get resources, I can get treated better from men. He doesn't like that. So if you come after me and you say that um I came after him. No, I didn't. All I said when he got triggered was, I don't know who this man is because I didn't. I don't know who watches his content. I don't. I guess you do now. And he didn't like that. And he started attacking me saying, "Oh, she's just triggered because um she went on a date and she didn't get the ring," which whatever the fuck that means. I could have dated the guy, he could have died. Maybe it was a first date, never went back. I mean, you really don't know the in and outs,
Right.
but it's just a way to really just devalue you and make you somehow it's weird because they have this whole thing against marriage, yet if you're not married, they come after you. So it's like you're not married yourself, you don't want to get married because women are going to come after your resources. So why the fuck do you care
Well,
if
to
I'm
me,
married?
it's just that the stories that he's talked about, he was a 30-something-year-old man when he fell for a 19-year-old stripper, single mom, who broke his heart, took his money.
Mhm.
He went into debt, took money from his family and friends to like help. I'm sorry, if you're 30-something years old and you had to learn that a 19-year-old stripper, single mom, you had to go through that to understand women's real nature, then there's a problem with you. You might low key be the R word. I'm low key. I don't know what to tell you because you're 30 something. You're not a 19-year-old kid going through this. You're not a
Mhm.
young kid in your 20s going through this. You're already 30 something years old and you're falling for a 19-year-old. So the problem is that a lot of the times it seems like these men don't practice what they preach. So to me, the reason why Donovan and I've actually listened to Donovan's content when Linda was on
I didn't.
Saucecast. When Linda was on Saucecast, I told her I know exactly who this guy is. And I told her he doesn't practice any of his of what it is that he preaches. His wife or girlfriend at the time was significantly older. She's also a single mom, all of these other things. And then you look at his history, and also at least Tate has money and is successful. There's nothing that Donovan Sharp is doing that puts him in a caliber of person where I'm like, wow, like that at least I want to talk to him about like business, or like that's a good thing about him. Like he's just a really hateful person towards women, period. And I think that a lot of it has to do with warning men about the worst kind of women, and then kind of painting all women with that wide brush.
This
But
comment right here, you shouldn't be pouring out your wallet for women or anybody in general to be a white knight. Yeah, again, you have to date within your range,
you're
right? So
right.
like if like you can compare yourself to somebody at Don Jr.'s level, right? Where maybe on the first day with Kimberly Guilfoyle, he's the son of a billionaire. He's able to send a car for her, and he's able to have 100 roses, and
Right.
maybe the best restaurant in Palm Beach that's worth $500. And maybe it's a second date, he's gonna take her on a helicopter ride. Like you can't compare yourself to people at that level. So there's like this, and then you go down and you go down and you go down. So if you can only afford to take a woman to Flanagan's on the first date and she's okay with that, then that's great. If you can afford to take a woman, like it's all on the man. Like I've never seen a woman be like, "Oh, on the first date you have to take me to Prime 112." Or I mean, at least I don't know those women. My girls are not like that. And or you gotta take me on a helicopter ride, and then you have to take me to Italy. Like are they women like that? Probably escorts for the most part, I'd say, right? They have like higher expectations because that's what they do.
Yep.
But there are men out there, I promise you, that will buy you a bag on the first date without you having to sleep with them. There's men out there that will send a badass car to pick you up. And it's just like, do rich men not exist?
Yeah, and
Like,
when and what gives you or anybody else the right to judge those men based off what's in their means to do? Like the equivalent of a $10 date to you might be a 1,000 date, the $1,000 date to another man that doesn't that
right.
has the resources to do it. So when did we become, again, the American Taliban? When
Yeah.
did we become like the RP become like this communist space where you're watching other men's wallet and what they're spending?
Right.
I would
I don't
never
know why.
advocate for a man
I'm
spending
sorry.
outside of his means. Let me
Right.
say this one thing, which is one of the reasons why I think that the RP is full of shit, because I think that it places unrealistic pressure on young men, telling them that they need to be the sole providers in a household during the worst economic times that this country has ever seen. So if you really want to talk about not opening up your wallets and being white knights, why are you guys advocating for an ideology that tells women that they're only worth something if they're at home baking sourdough bread? And why are you telling men during, once again, the worst economic time that our country has ever seen, that the only way that they have value is if they're able to be the sole providers and maintain a house? That's financial abuse.
I don't know why this guy is so mad. He's like, Donovan has money and is successful. No, he doesn't have money. He's not successful. That's a lie. You don't have 300 million Andrew Tate money to be considered as such. You don't have, and who said we had money like Andrew Tate? Like,
I mean, I don't,
I don't
but again,
understand.
those people
I don't
usually,
get it.
you guys realize that
Like, it's
rich
so
people
weird.
usually date other rich people.
Yeah.
Famous
Yeah.
people usually date other famous people.
That's why Don Jr. it's with
Is
somebody
with
like
somebody that's involved in
Kimberly
politics,
Guilfoyle.
that has a history in the public eye, in the politics,
Yeah,
because
like,
people, the RP never wants to talk about compatibility. People are going to date within their means. And usually, if you are a billionaire, guess what?
yeah,
You're not in the same clubs that people are at. You're not
right.
doing the same activities that regular broke people are at. They're not in the dive bars that we are at. We're broke nobody. Guess what? They're in restaurants in Palm Beach. And there's
Yeah.
other women there that have money, that are old money, that come from money, that have been come from money, that don't know anything else except coming from, they don't need to marry a guy for money
Yeah.
because they come from money. And those people tend to find each other and marry each other. And that's the reality of the majority of people.
Right.
So it's not
I
realistic.
think this comment here by Lisa. Hi Lisa, good to see you here. She's one of our followers on Twitter, and I love her posts. We share a lot of the same thoughts. She says, Fred, that's not true of most women. It's just social media. Men want the Instagram chicks, so they cry and seethe about them. Actually, that's factually true, and I'm so glad you said that. And I posted a video that went viral, and obviously you had some haters, some lovers, some everything. And the video was of Latina women who are married, Latina, what you would consider traditional wife, who are married to blue collar workers, right? So construction workers, dwellers, plumbers, and their TikToks are going viral because they wake up very early to cook their husbands full on badass Mexican meals, right? And you had reactions from women saying, I would never do that. I would just pack my husband lunch from the night before. You had men saying, oh, that they're just doing it for the gram or whatnot and stuff like that. And so these are women that are dating an average Joe, right? Like, how if you guys say that all these, and they're very pretty girls, like cute girls, young girls, married, taking pride in waking up. The video that I posted, the girl woke up at 2:40 a.m. to cook for her husband, probably because he has to be there out by like 3
Has to be at
o'clock,
the
4
house by
o'clock.
5:30, by 5 in the morning to be at the work site by 6.
Drive an hour, and then they just have this construction work for plenty of hours. And so I don't understand how these Mexican men who aren't Andrew Tate rich or famous YouTubers,
they're blue collar guys,
they're just blue collar workers, are able to get these women,
if what the red pill says is true,
are able to get these Latino wives to wake up at 3 a.m. And I saw some other ones that like are cooking for my dad. It was super cute. It was a girl cooking for her like construction worker dad. And they're able to get these girls to do that for them. But you guys think that it's only want to go for the baddies. That's really the problem. You guys only want to go for the baddies. Well, you see the girl on Instagram, you know what it is? And she's got the fattest ass, and she has a million followers, and that's who you want.
Women, let me explain to you why that is. And we've had this discussion before. To men, women are a commodity. And the same way that men feel some kind of status symbol when they have a Rolex on their arm or when they're driving a foreign vehicle, it's the same way when you have a woman that's so unbelievably attractive that every man wants her. That's also a status symbol. So every man covets that kind of girl. Right. And it's traditional value. Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But don't tell us that we're crazy when you look into the profiles of those girls and they're filled with thousands upon thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of likes and followers. And it's for a reason. It's not other women. It's that men do in fact like that. They do in fact see it as a status symbol when there are men. And the problem is that there's a lot of men that they want that girl, that Instagram baddie girl, to also be the virgin, the homemaker, the whatever. And it doesn't work that way. And that's a reality check, you know what, to also the women. I've seen all the videos where you see like either like a heavy set girl or a girl that's maybe just not, it's unbelievably attractive, saying, I want a guy that's 6 foot something and he needs to be making millions of dollars, and saying something ridiculous. Like, bro, people just need to humble themselves like their moms and their dads did. People need to humble themselves when it comes to dating, and date within your range. Yeah. Date within people that looks max one another. Like, is this person too attractive for you? Are you too attractive for that person? Like, those things do matter.
Right.
Somebody said, how can I get my Latina girlfriend to stop abusing me?
If you're rich, what is the point of spending all that money for one person? Because you're rich and you don't care. It's the same point. Like, what is the point? Wait, hold on. What is the point of having 3 cars? What's the point of Andrew? What's the point of Andrew Tate having 10 cars? What's the point of having 3 Rolexes? What's the point of Cristiano Ronaldo's girl having a whole wall full of Hermes, each one worth over $20,000? It's fucking rich people, dude. Like, you live in a capitalist society. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we are not advocating for you to spend your resources on women. Let me repeat that again. We are not advocating and will never advocate for men to spend their resources on women. But there are different class statuses, socioeconomic class statuses. It is that simple. You're not going to stop rich men from flexing their money if they feel like it. Okay? We live in Miami. We see it all the time. All the time. They take you out on the yacht. They do this. They do that. They got the house in Bimini. You can drive to literally 2 hours away. Rich people have houses in the most beautiful island in the Bahamas. What are you going to do? Like, punish rich men for wanting to do that? Like,
do you also think that like every rich man just wants to sleep around? You know, there's like a lot of rich guys that just want to get married and share their life with somebody. And like, what are they supposed to do? Change the way that they live their life because they're dating somebody that has less money? No, like, shoot, in my early 20s, I dated men that were broke and I made more money than them, and I didn't mind like paying for things. So because you want to maintain your lifestyle. Right. Like, what do you think that guy is gonna like change their lifestyle? Because it's like, oh well, this girl doesn't have as much money as me, so let me just test her out for a while and take her to have a frita, re de la frita, y un batido de mamey, and see if that keeps her happy. Like, it's
Some of my friends that are married, I have some friends of mine. My friend that she converted to Judaism for her husband. Their first date was at the kava bar that doesn't exist anymore, so we can say their first date is at a kava bar. The it's like a tea. I'm not gonna go into it, whatever. But the drinks are like $20, and then they rollerbladed. They're married now. That was their first date. Their first date, he probably paid $40-$50 between both of them getting drinks at a kava bar on South Beach, and then they went rollerblading. And I don't know what their second or third day was, but the point is that they're married now, right? And so it's not about you having to use all your resources and having to go broke to show a girl a good time. But there is statuses. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It just is what it is. Like, I can't afford to go buy a Chanel bag right now, but some of my friends can. And it's just like, you may think to yourself, why would anybody buy a $10,000 bag? Because they can.
They are asking, actually. Somebody said, what's the point of women buying $300 bags?
Well, there's 300. I mean,
300K bags, 300K, he said. Because they can. Because we live in a consumerism society.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it is. It's for the same reason that people get a new iPhone every other year.
You don't really need
it's
a
like,
Bugatti.
what do broke people do? Like, what do you think? Like, you're not out there saving your little money so you can get yourself your nice little Jordans and the new iPhone. You can have your nice little Apple Watch. Maybe you drive a little Tesla. Like, you everybody's trying to do what it is that they are. We live in a consumerist society. If you don't like it, move to the woods. That's
Joe. I just want to give a shout out to Joe, our friend, with the contribution. He says, conversation men need to stop being so emotionally driven and need to be strong through love and patience for their families. I know Joe personally. He's a great man. He has a great wife. He has a beautiful daughter. And this is one of the most hardworking individuals that you'll ever meet, working around the clock all day, every day, serving people for who? For his family, for his daughter, just got a second home. Like, there is men out there winning at life, and you don't need to be a billionaire. I also want to read this comment from a girl, Rafaela Moreno. She says, cuando me levanto, when I wake up, I do make my hardworking blue collar man a good meal. Good for you. Keep that going. We love to see that.
I take my blue collar husband's work boots off every single day when he gets home from work.
By the way, Joey, you're gonna fail at life if you think that you're not gonna have to spend any money on women. If a woman really loves you, well, the woman doesn't love you because she hasn't met you.
Yeah, but what do you? But again, it's a crap ton of money to you. It's what you consider money. It's what you consider a crap ton for money. It's not about
this comment. Girls, as you were saying, I'm really packing my husband's meal, atún con arroz and other snacks. Good for you. My hubby is a pool man and makes 6 figures, and I work too. Love that. Love that.
Modern woman. I love that. Modern women doing modern women things, cooking dinner for her husband, and she's going to work too.
Look at this. I live in a wealthy area, and even women around here are reasonable people, but I can't speak for everybody else. I saw another comment. The IG baddies aren't that hot at all. I wouldn't let 3/4 near them backstage at a concert if I were in the 90s. Okay, sure, whatever that means. Yeah, it's pretty pathetic. You're gonna pay.
Somebody's saying lies. Rich people don't buy expensive things. Okay, bro, sure. Come on, bro. Like, don't say, like, of course they buy expensive things. What do you think, that because Steve Jobs wore the same black t-shirt every single day, that it was like a Hanes black t-shirt, and that he wasn't buying money on his gadgets and his bullshit? Of course he was. Rich people do spend money. Well, rich people don't need to show off their money. Maybe they're not getting the Fendi bag with all of the F's or anything on it, but yeah, they're spending their money on nice things that they like. A friend Look at Dave Portnoy. Linda posted it the other day. Don't tell me money can't buy happiness. Yeah, look at Miss Peaches. Look at Miss Peaches. Look at Miss Peaches went from the shelter to Carbone.
Literally.
From the shelter to Carbone.
She was rescued on a PJ.
On a private jet, she went home. Money can buy happiness, of course. But I also understand that the majority of us will never be rich. I gotta be okay with like the nice life that you can build for yourself. Up to now, there's no need to like cry so much. It's okay. What's $10 for you? I promise you, there's girls within your price range.
I have a very wealthy friend of mine who pays $16,000 for an ocean view apartment in Miami that she only sees like 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Rich people are gonna do what rich people are gonna do.
I want to address Joey. Thank you for putting all these comments. So Joey wrote in the chat. He's like, "Yeah, that's pretty pathetic that you gotta pay a girl to go on your boat or party. You shouldn't have to spend money to hang out with someone." Can I tell you that a lot of those guys that pay for those girls to go on those boats do it for privacy reasons? They usually go through an agency that sends in the girls.
Leo DiCaprio does
that send in the girls so that they don't have to worry about meeting chicks, finding out if they're actually drug addicts or anything. They make a phone call to the agency because it's easier, because once again, women are a great commodity, and what's a boat without hot bitches in it? So what do? They call the agency runs a filter. They already know which models to send, and they send the girls to have a good time on the boat. That's how it really happens. So to you, you're thinking it's pathetic, but to these men with a lot of money, it's a convenience thing, and they can pay for convenience. That's like asking, why would anybody pay somebody to walk their dog? Well, walking your dog is actually a pretty easy thing, but maybe you've got enough money to pay somebody to do it for you.
Real quick story before we go, because I want to make sure that you know, I know some of you guys, the men, are not gonna like the story, but we have to be we just gotta be realistic here for a second. I want to show you guys this. Okay. So back in the day, I don't know if you guys do you guys know who Alex Earl is? She's a famous influencer. Alex Earl. Anybody? Put one in the chat if you know who Alex Earl is. No? Anybody? Okay. Well, Alex Earl is one of the most famous influencers on TikTok right now. She's probably the biggest influencer. She's like 22 years old. She went to the University of Miami. She got really famous on TikTok for being very real. You can look her up later. Millions of followers. Anyways, all that to say that Alex Earl, she comes from a wealthy family in New Jersey. Her dad actually married an escort. So if you guys
she's
don't know,
highest paid, the highest paid influencer on TikTok, right? Or Alex Earl?
Yeah. So I want to, this right here this is an article from 2015. Elliot Spritzer's former call girl is now a stay-at-home mom. So when she was 22 years old, Ashley Earl, she used to be known as Ashley Dupree. She was an escort, and she was a high-end escort. And she was part of a scandal with the governor of New York. Back then, it was Elliot Spitzer, because that was the call girl that he would always get. Why is that? Because these men are busy, because they need secrecy, because there are public figures. If you're a governor, if you're a mayor, if you're a president, whatever it is, you obviously can't have everybody knowing you're you know, the chicks that you're having sex with on the side. And so Ashley Dupree, now known as Alex Earl, used to be that girl. So for those of you who say that, you know, ran through whores don't get the ring, they don't get married, they don't get high value men, well, she did, right? As many of them do. Why is that? Because a lot of these rich older men don't care. They're busy, they're working, and if an escort simplifies their life and they like her and they have good chemistry and the chicks make him feel good, then that is exactly what's going to happen. So you don't have to like it. It's not a reality that I like. It's not something that I'm pushing women to do. I'm not advocating on it. But the reality is that there are men like that. Now you can go see this girl. You can actually go follow her on TikTok, Ashley Earl. She has a lot of followers. She lives a fabulous life, married to a very, very wealthy man. They go on their yachts. They have now 3 children together. And she is who? A former escort. And just like this, there are many, many, many such cases. The reality is just like Lisa says, it really isn't about body count, right? And again, I don't want to say this because I want to encourage women to sleep around. I want to say this based on reality, because if a chick is hot enough, like Nina Agdal with Jake Paul, if she has the looks, if she has the personality, and if she makes these rich men feel good, she's going to probably get the ring. And I think I told you guys last week or the week before that I personally saw an appraisal for an engagement ring of also a high paid escort, $200,000. I mean, I just, you know, and you guys can call simps. You guys can say this. You guys can call them simps. You can call Jake Paul. What's his name? Jake Paul, but it's not Jake Paul. It was Logan Paul. who married Nina Agdal. You can call them simps, you can call them degenerates, you can say that they're gonna get divorced. I mean, whatever bullshit that you want to say, but the reality is that this goes back to ages, right? I love to tell the story. I love to tell the story, and this will be we got to go now. We've been at this for a while. Um,
TikTok is loving it, by the way.
we want to I want to tell the story of Queen Elizabeth. Do you know why Queen Elizabeth
Oh, very
had
important.
to become Queen Elizabeth, despite the fact that she was not the next person in the lineage for the throne? It was actually her uncle who was supposed to be the king after her father passed away. But the reason why Queen Elizabeth had to step up was because her uncle fell in love with what I like to call peasant pussy. And this man wasn't supposed to marry a peasant. He was supposed to, or a whore, actually, is what he was.
She was divorced. She was
She
divorced.
was a divorced woman. Imagine back then. I mean, this were like 19 what? I mean, Queen Elizabeth was even around for the Holocaust, and that was like the 1930s. So
He gave up his
many such
position.
cases.
The future king of England gave up his position so that he could be with a woman that was considered
Mhm.
not wholesome by the royal family. And then the contrast is that you also have a current King Charles that had his virgin bride, and he wanted nothing to do with her because
Yeah,
he wanted the divorce, and ran through the syllables.
yeah.
I'm having so much. Listen, the TikTok is pumping, guys. Thank you so much for coming
Really?
out and
Let me
hanging
see.
out.
How do
And
you
we got
know?
up to like 70 something today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today in the chat. Even Kyle,
Who's Kyle?
Kyle has a lot to say. He
Is he
says that
mad?
we're gossipers. What else did he say? He's just been going on. He's like, you two are just gossipers. Says you're listening to a 22-year-old because he said we were going to talk about Alex Earl. He's just, it's nice to know that we've got Kyle's on the chat.
Oh,
It
yeah.
seems like we've got a couple of Undead Chronics fans on the chat too, interacting with us. Let's
Nice.
go over this last couple of contributions that came in.
The last, there's only one.
No,
The
did we
Alejandra.
leave? Did we read this one, the
Yeah.
Jojo? Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So Alejandra writes, girls, you've been missed. Porfa, sigan hablando de relaciones
course.
internacionales. Would love to hear your thoughts on Argentina. Yes, maybe we got a little. We're overdue on some Latin American coverage.
I think the Argentina situation is interesting because Americans, and especially on the right, they have a lot of judgment of Milei for like getting the vaccine or being like super pro-Jewish or whatever, or Israel. And the reality is that anything it's better than what Argentina used to have before. And so one of my best friends, actually, she's dating an Argentinian man, and they just came back from Argentina. They spent New Year's there, and before they left, they're both liberals. Let me just put that out there. Before they left, she was pretty much saying how, her boyfriend was very against the new president and how they didn't know how he was going to be and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. Now she comes back and I asked her, I said, hey, what insight did you get from Argentina? Are the people happy? How are they responding to Milei? And what she had to say kind of shocked me. I guess she changed her mind because people there are like, have been struggling for a few years. And she's like, one thing that we were told by my boyfriend's family is that the teachers were always paid really, like they had really shitty salaries. I forgot what she said. And they never cared because the teachers were on the side of the left. But the minute that the government changed, that Milei came into power, now all of a sudden there's protests, despite the fact that they have been getting paid the same salary for years, for years. But of course, the government changes, so then they have to go and they have to protest and they have to make up this whole thing and be dramatic and whatnot. So I think even people like my friend who are considered like Democrats, like center left, I can't even say anything negative about what's going on in Argentina because it just the left wing government was like so much worse. So that's what I have to say. And Alex, good to see you back. Are people on the right extremists if they don't like the vaccine? It's not that they're extremists, or I guess I'd say that maybe it's not necessarily that they're extremists, but they seem to think that if somebody gets the vax, then they're not on the right side of things. And something that I explain to people is that you have to look at things like culturally, right? So these Latinos, especially Latinos and South Americans, they're they're hypochondriacs. They're
Mhm.
hypochondriacs. Like they believe in science, they believe in vaccines. They actually look at vaccines as like an American, what do you say? Like not an American, yeah, like an American invention. And so it's not.
Well, they're also very law abiding.
They're also exactly.
So the rules are
Yeah.
that you had to get the shot, and so as a result, they didn't question it because it was what if you didn't, you weren't
Yeah.
gonna be able to go to work. So it's like, well, the government asked us to do it, and they trust it. So
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming through today, and we are very grateful that you're all here. Obviously, we do this as a hobby, like once a week, but we've been growing on YouTube, and we're trying to get in another algorithm so we can go back to our regular viewership when it's live. But we will be back next week. And if you missed some of it, I'll be here and you can start it over again for those of you who came late. And that is all for today. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week.
see you guys next week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our content, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.